Hey y'all, Moses here. In today's video, we're talking about PUBG. It's been a little while since I've just had a chat with you guys. Hope you've been enjoying the daily YouTube content, but I've had this idea in my head that I wanted to kind of flesh out improv style, if you will, over the last couple of days. So that's what we're going to do. Just a disclaimer, this is not doom and gloom. This is not critique. Well, maybe a little bit of critique, but this is from a place of positivity. I want this game to go far. I always have. But before we get into the nitty gritty, I want to let you guys know that you can get $20 off the PC 37X from Drop by using the offer code down in the description. You just click on the link and you can get one of the best gaming headsets on the market. Great microphone, great sound, detachable cable. You know it. I've been talking about it forever. Let's jump right in. A lot has been happening in PUBG over the last couple of months. We've had the Erangel update come out. We've seen a couple of bug fixes. Even though PUBG gets better every single month in marginal or sometimes very impactful ways, the game has never really changed. And that is sometimes a good thing, but also in some cases a bad thing. When something never changes, fatigue starts to set in regardless of whether or not the product improves. If you're doing the same thing every single day, eventually you're going to get tired of it and want to move on. That could be a couple of days, that could be a couple of weeks, maybe even years. And as PUBG has continued to move on and improve in various ways, the base game, the way you move around the map, the winning, the losing, it all feels nearly identical to when the game hit early access 2 years ago. And that breeds the thought, what can we change? And I don't really know what we can change because the community has been very vocal about a lot of topics, sound, bug fixes, cheaters. It's always been a kind of couple of topics that continue to be recycled in the greater PUBG discussion. So now looking forward, I start to wonder, what is PUBG's vision? What are the developers trying to create? Are they trying to create something that is formulaic and similar to its roots like CSGO? Or are they trying to get more popular appeal in a game like Apex or maybe even Fortnite? But Apex and Fortnite are interesting examples because they continually improve and change their game, but also attack the fundamental gameplay by adding things like solo gameplay, like Apex has done. Fortnite has destroyed their game with giant mechanical robots. It depends on their, I guess, risk factor. Do they want to take risks in order to improve their product? Looking at PUBG, I have never got the sense or the feeling that they are willing to take any risks to harm or alter or maybe even sometimes improve their core product. And I think that is where the game becomes stale. And when you kind of break down and look at it, at least in my opinion, why the game never changes, why it always feels the same, it comes down to scarcity. And that is the kind of the overarching theme of PUBG, which is scarcity. There's never quite enough loot. You're never quite enough in a good position. If things come into the game that are a little bit overpowered, or if the devs think that something's being used too much, it's always a reduction. They want to take things away, reduce, to either deter players from using it or to balance out their core gameplay, which again remains unchanged. So there's lots of examples of scarcity that I think are important to recognize. The BRDM came into the game very powerful, and instead of adding something to the game to counteract the BRDM, they just decided to roll back the fun factor, which is to take all the HP away in solos and duos and squads. And now the BRDM is kind of inconsequential to gameplay. They added the Desert Eagle, but didn't want to go too powerful with it, instead making it essentially a souped up R45 revolver with a few more attachments. And it is just round clutter like so many other things, like other pistols and whatnot. The SMGs were buffed, but at the same time, ARs were nerfed. So instead of just making the SMGs as good as the ARs, they decided to make the ARs a little bit worse just because. Vikendi DMRs, that's a bit of an old topic. I think things have been balanced out there quite nicely, but when the game first, or when Vikendi first came out, there were no DMRs to be found anywhere, and those who did find them were able to dominate because of the way the map is laid out. So there's an interesting note on Vikendi is they gave us back level 3 helmets. They came out of the crate on Vikendi and they remain there to this day. Now, I've never been a big fan of World Spawn level 3 helmets from a balance perspective, but I've kind of come around to the fact that I think it's time to start putting more into the game rather than taking things away, because if you start adding things to the game, I'm going to use the BRDM as an example. I said that they should maybe add something to counteract it, And this is something I never thought I would say, okay? But if the BRDMs are too powerful, let's put an anti-tank weapon in the game. Something that comes out of the crate, maybe the flare gun as well. RPGs, dog. I mean, I'm just going to come out and say it. Let's put some RPGs in the game that you get 2 or 3 shots maximum. It has a long reload time. It one-shots vehicles and does grenade damage if you shoot it at a player. You only get 2 or 3. I don't think that would destroy the game, but it would be a hype thing. It would be like, oh my God, PUBG added RPGs. The Deagle, one-shot level 2 helmets, easy. You have a great alternative that has a skill potential, clip ability. Streamers would use it, players would use it. It would generate hype. Increasing, like, we had a bit of a discussion around the Erangel loot table over the last million videos or so, because there's been some talk about how the Erangel loot table actually works. Now, the devs have said to me directly, as well as many other people in the community team like Hawkins has said, the loot has not changed. Nothing has changed. And at this stage, I'm willing to believe them, because they added the fact that due to the way that the loot is distributed on the map, that sometimes it's inefficiently allocated. Like when you run into a house with 5 first aids and you run through an entire city with none. If that is the case, let's just turn that crank again. Just turn it up a little bit. That way, even though the density might be insane in some areas, at least everywhere will be serviced. That way, instead of the scarcity aspect, we have comical overload. And I'm not saying like, it's this weird balance between the people who think that scarcity is a good thing and that scarcity is not a good thing. I'm kind of in the middle, because I don't want everyone to have super sick gear, but I don't want to be naked 15 minutes into the game wondering why I can't find a red dot or meds or whatever, because that's just more fatigue. You start the game, it takes you 3 or 4 minutes to get into the game from the lobby, and then you're in the plane, you're on the ground, you're running around for loot. Potentially there's 10 or 15 minutes will go by with either no action because you're looking for loot for an extended period of time, or once you do get looted, you die, and that's 15 minutes that's wasted that you have to start over again. Fatigue, scarcity, players leave the game, and that is something that needs to be addressed. There's a lot of different ways to take the reverse scarcity, the bounty argument, to make things more available, more fun, more exciting. And that is to release yourself from the fear, and this is the devs, release themselves from the fear that altering the base game will negatively affect either player population, player reaction, player trust, whatever you want to call it. There's always going to be dissent. I'll use the red zone for an example. If they were to remove the red zone tomorrow, I'm sure a lot of people would be upset. Enough so that maybe the devs would be like, oh, maybe we made a mistake. But I guarantee you that 3 or 4 weeks after the red zone's out of the game, nobody's going to care, because the only time you care about the red zone is when you're in the red zone. And if you're in the red zone and you like it, you're like, yay, I can now do whatever I do because I'm a lunatic. I've never met someone who likes the red zone. But if you hate the red zone, you're like, Jesus Christ, not another red zone. And that is the two kind of halves of the tail. So if you just take it out, some people are a little bit mad, some people are a little bit happy, and then after a while, no one cares. But it's this identity thing that PUBG grasps onto that I think is the reason why their gameplay never changes. If you were to play Pictionary, and I asked this on stream at twitch.tv/wtfmoses over the last couple of days, if I were to say to you, let's play some Pictionary, you get a card that says PUBG on it, what would you draw? The 3 things that I hear the most are the level 3 helmet, a chicken, and the pan. Those are the 3 cultural touchstones of PUBG. If you were to put Fortnite on the same placard, or Apex on the same placard, there's dozens of different things that people could draw that would say, oh, that's Fortnite, or oh, that's Apex. And I think that is where PUBG has become stale, is the cultural impact. In places like Asia and Indonesia, Southeast Asia, the game is massive. There is no competitors. The mobile game is huge. It's massive in Asia. And that maybe makes PUBG Corp comfortable with the fact that they don't really need to change anything because it's clearly working. But in the West, the game has essentially become third tier by a mile. I think that the North American population is between 6 and 9% of the total player population in the world. That's for the United States and Canada. South America has a little bit of a bump there as well. I think that Europe accounts for, including Russia, probably 25 to 35% of the player population. And the rest is China and the greater Asian region, with a little bit of Southeast Asia in there as well. So if you want to try and regain audience and refresh those that have been in from the beginning, it's time to look at changing your mentality, you being the devs watching this video, about how you approach the game. Why not go the other direction? Why not add? Put in something to counteract an OP. Put something OP in the game to counteract the other OP thing. Put a rocket launcher in to counteract the BRDM. There you go. That way, instead of having something super overpowered, you have something that you're driving along in your BRDM, you're crushing people in the end game. It's a solo game. You think you're sitting pretty, and bam, you're exploded by an RPG. Just like that. There's a lot of excitement that I think is being withheld from us just due to the fact that there's some fear about changing the core product. Riot Shields, put them in the game. Desert Eagle, make it overpowered. World Spawn AWMs, who gives a shit? Let's try something new, something exciting, and let's bring hype and excitement back to the game. That's just kind of my thought. That's what I wanted to get out there for you guys. This went a little longer than I wanted it to, but I just wanted to say thank you guys for watching. Thank you for watching the streams at twitch.tv/wtfmoses. Thank you for checking out all the links in the description for my sponsors, ViewSonic and Drop. And thanks for playing PUBG, guys. NPL season phase 3 rather is coming up very soon. I'll be making some announcements on that on Twitter, twitter.com/wtfmoses. Hope you're enjoying the daily content. Hopefully this made some sort of sense to you, and I'm glad we were able to have this talk. It's been too long. So thank you for watching, and until next time, I'll see you out there.